Welcome back to Throwdown TV, the punk rock opinion show with me, Geoff.
And Danny.
Today we're going to do our top 5 hardcore albums to recommend to metalheads.
Well, yeah, but when you say top 5...
Well, no, not top 5, I
it's
suppose.
Not really... I'm looking at this as essentially gateway albums.
Yeah, okay, so maybe you should rephrase that as just 5, not top 5.
Yeah, because doesn't necessarily mean I think these albums are great albums.
No, there's 1 or 2 I've picked that I wouldn't suggest are amazing, but they are a good...
You got to approach this as if you were if a metalhead came up to you and asked him or her to recommend you 5 hardcore albums for them to get into hardcore, you need to think of something that's going to be palatable to them.
Yeah.
So you're not going to recommend something that's too straight up straight away, are you? Because they probably... I mean, I've got a mate who
depends on their taste in metal, to be fair.
Well, I've got a mate who, for years, we've hung out for years since we were in school. And he's a big black metalhead. I've tried to... All his music has rubbed off on me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a big black metal fan, mainly because of him.
Right.
I can't get him to listen to... I think I've just about got him into being interested in Discharge after 25 years, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, maybe slightly closed-minded, but I think when you're picking albums like this is what a metalhead... You're not going to pick up the most metallic hardcore album and say, listen to these. I've thought about what would be most palatable to a metalhead.
Okay.
Is that what how you've approached it?
Slightly different, but yeah, to a point, definitely. And not all, like I said, not all I've picked are not necessarily what I think are world-beating
And you
albums.
had to point what you said there. It depends what type of metal they're
exactly.
into. Yeah.
What I've done is, and when I've thought about each pick, I thought of my reason why I would recommend this to a metalhead, but maybe some of them are specific type of metalheads who are into a certain style, and obviously I'll elaborate on that with my picks. Like,
No, I agree, because I think I've picked all mine based on a certain type of metalhead.
Yeah, well, I vary slightly on mine, but definitely sort of 2 or 3 types of metalheads. But but before we get to our picks, anyway, we've got a couple of things to shout out, haven't we?
Go ahead.
So our man Spencer, who we often talk about, often sends us some quality stuff. Sent us both a copy of this 7-inch. Can you see that? Cord Vald, and it's called Total Distortion EP. Sent us both a copy. I didn't know anything about it.
It looks good, and you played me, and it sounds good.
And it was, as soon as I looked at it, I thought, got to be Swedish or something. And then when it started, it's got that like DBT, like Kang punk sound. I thought, got to be Swedish. It turns out, the drummer is Swedish. The rest of it is James. I think his name is James Domestics from the Domestics and various other projects. But it's really fucking cool. It does sound quite driving in that like Swedish hardcore sound. So thanks again, Spencer, for a quality pick.
He never lets us down, Spencer, with the freebies.
Good shit, doesn't he? Yeah. And the other shout out, if you follow us on the social medias, you've probably already seen this. But last weekend we went to Manchester and we appeared on a podcast. A long time watcher of the show, Mr. Burnt Disc. So those of you who are interested in watching it, I'll put the link for it in the description of this video. It was really good fun, wasn't it?
We don't just talk about music, we talk about toothbrushes and all sorts of
electric toothbrushes come up. It's good. Yeah, you should watch it. It's definitely, and we're maybe a little bit more because it's not our show, so we're a bit more relaxed, aren't we? Just kind of riffing and talking about stuff. Yeah, it's cool. Like I say, we'll put a link in it. But so for the shout outs.
If you think of any more, we'll do it later. So hardcore albums to recommend a metalhead.
Cool.
So I'll go first then.
Go on then.
I've gone for the 3rd album in the discography of Biohazard. I've gone State of the World Address. Why have I picked State of the World Address? This album, I guess, is where they started to let a little bit of what would become known as the new metal sound creep in. Now, it's not a secret that after, towards the later 90s and 2000s, and everyone knows how much I love Biohazard. Everyone knows. I just always go on about Biohazard. You know what I mean? The only hardcore band I've ever been starstruck over being at a gig.
Absolutely, yeah.
And this is the last great album of what I'd consider their golden age.
Okay.
Urban Discipline is probably my favourite hardcore album of all time, just for how it affected me.
Yeah.
It's not the perfect album. I'm talking about how it affected me.
It's your favourite.
Yeah, their self-titled album was more of a straight-up hardcore album. However, this now this is where you are starting to get a bit more experimental with stuff that maybe new metal kids would be into.
Yeah.
And kind of that's where a lot of my choices have come in. Like people who are into like more maybe who are into like metalcore and new metal. This is what I'd recommend those individuals probably if they wanted to cross that bridge. So consider my list a bridging list. It's a bridging list. That's how I'm going to say what it is.
What kind of a list?
A bridging list.
There you go. Bridging list.
It's a bridging list. This is. So this is when they started like. Cypress Hill appear. There's a few samples in there, a lot of rapping, you know, a lot of like slower songs as well.
Bit more groove.
Yes, definitely a lot more groove influenced as well. But yeah, but this for me, this is one of the great albums I've picked. I still love this album. Do you know what I mean? There's some albums here I don't think are great at all.
No.
But I do think this is a great album.
Fair enough.
Like I said, this is I'd say the last of their like golden age of what I consider great Biohazard. They really did go off the boil for a good while after this album, but this is a really good bridging album to get from say new metal or groove metal into hardcore. That's what probably the first album I'd recommend someone right there.
Go bridging. Okay. Bridging. So first one for me, this was the first and possibly what a lot of people might think when you think of recommending hardcore to a metalhead. I've gone for Black Flag's 1984 masterpiece, My War.
You not picked that already?
Definitely not.
Okay.
Definitely not. One of 3 albums they released in '84. The other ones being Slippin' In and Family Man. This is the pick of the bunch for me, obviously. And I picked this mainly, obviously, because if you know it, you know the B-side. The 3 tracks, Nothing Left Inside, 3 Nights, and Scream. All very slow, sludgy, dirgy, like definitely influenced a slew of like sludge bands that came after them. Melvins were fucking paying attention to this quite clearly, and you know, all I Hate God, big fans of this period of Black Flag as well. If I was going to go for a metalhead, and obviously maybe someone who liked some of that sludgier side of metal, I'd say I'd give them this, or I'd put it on for them, but I'd definitely start it on side B because it's all the slow, sludgy metal. But then throw it back to side A because I think the title track could appeal to a metalhead as well. But yeah, I mean, like I said, that was the first one that came to my head, so I'm picking that first, My War, Black Flag.
Now, you may have noticed that I jumped on Geoff there when he first picked that, and I said, haven't you picked that already? Just to remind people, if you haven't subscribed from the beginning, which a lot of you wouldn't have, we do have a policy on here that we don't pick the same album twice. Hence the reason why, and the only reason why, Satisfaction is the Death of Desire by Hatebreed is not in my choice of albums here, because that is pretty well. Hatebreed, of course,
you have picked that album.
Yeah, Hatebreed, that album especially is probably the ultimate bridging album in my opinion to get a metalhead into hardcore.
Word of the day, that
it is bridging, right? So another good bridging album is Sworn Enemies, As Real As It Gets. Now these are kind of from the OG beatdown scene. If you heard their classic EP, Negative Outlook. Now this is their first album, and it's nowhere near as good as the EP they did before this. The vocals are turn me off big time. The music's good. The music's very good. But this is the kind of album that if you're one of them like Lamb of God type of fans, and you can still wear the camo, your camo short, and you can still go like this in a pit on a breakdown and that. This is one of those type of albums. So yeah, really tough hardcore. I was going to pick this or Terror Lower of the Low, but these are a bit more interesting to me than Terror are. Terror, I've always said before, I think are the most boring hardcore band in existence.
I would second that, to be fair.
Yeah. So, has this got a CD in it? Oh, yeah. Okay, it felt a bit light. I was like, what the
fuck? Oh, God, imagine if that was missing.
Oh, no. I was like, what the hell? Yeah. But, I'd always have this in my collection. This is a decent metallic hardcore album. It is good. Nice. Like I said, though, that his vocals changed from the EP to this one, and he started sounding like a baby having a tantrum or something. But it's still good enough. And yeah, definitely a good bridging album from metal to hardcore.
Bridging album, there you go. Right, second pick for me. This is one of the albums actually I'm not a massive fan of, but it is considered a classic. And we did talk about it briefly. I've gone for Detestation by G.I.S.M. I've picked this mainly, this probably isn't the most easiest and palatable album.
I was going to say, that's a terrible choice in my opinion.
Not a bridging album, but it is it's a massively big example of the two styles coming together, I think.
Yeah, but no metalhead's going to...
Because the guitars are very Iron Maiden.
Well, no, yeah, I agree with that.
And Judas Priesty. I think the production on it verges on like black metal production at times. The vocals come across a little bit like that. It's not palatable by any means to a metalcore fan, maybe, but someone was into maybe a bit of black metal, something that's a bit noisy and dissonant.
Right, I'll give you it then.
I'll take. Oh, thanks for giving me it.
Yeah,
fucking judge jury over here.
Yeah.
But that's my second pick. Like I say, I'm not a massive fan of it either. It is essentially something I suppose I kind of would like. I like having in my collection because of who they are, where they come from, and things. But I think, yeah, I'd like to say, I think that my argument stands for that. I think if you're into that more like black metal-y, noisy, dissonant stuff,
you know what though, most
that might appeal to you.
Most crusty, punky, like living in a wheelie bin type punks find that unpalatable. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like I say, I think it's a good example of the two coming together. It might not necessarily be for everyone, but it can show that the two can coexist quite well. And if you're into punk, there's not there can be not a massive difference in getting into metal. Like I say, the guitars on that are what sells it as very metal-y to me, but the drums and the bass very hardcore. Production quite black metalish. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Another album I do love actually, and really, really love, and a band I love, and I sometimes get a bit of shit for loving them so much. E-Town Concrete and their album Time to Shine. They're probably has a rep for having the worst front cover of all time.
It's a terrible artwork.
Isn't that awful, man?
Yeah,
isn't that awful? Like that, it looks like it's been done on Microsoft Paint. But this, if you, this is for the Limp Bizkit fans. This is for the flipping the Lincoln, the Papa Roach fans. Now I've got to say, E-Town Concrete play a really good beat, especially their early stuff. They play a really good beat down style, and the singer is essentially a rapper who can rap. To be fair, he can do it. Do you know what I mean? It's not like, it's not like you can't put a rhyme together. He can do it. Do you know what I mean? And this and the EP Fuck the World before this, and let's not forget the cursed record, E-Town Concrete with Second to None, which it's the cursed record as we know, but those releases, E-Town, gold. I lost interest a bit as they went on, and he did go even more and more nu metal after that. Like it's already creeping in, like I say, with the rapping and stuff. There's no DJ, there's no luckily there's none of that in there. It's like essentially it's beat down hardcore with rapping over it, and it works really good on this album.
Cool. Alright, pick number 3 for me. So I've gone for Pain of Mind by Neurosis. Neurosis, obviously, kings of sludge metal, very well known post-metal experimental band, as you well know probably, especially if you're into metal. And the reason I picked this is because a lot of metalheads probably know who they are, but I find this album doesn't get talked about. Maybe people don't know their origins that well, so this would be me saying, well, they are about a metal band that you love. Here they are starting as a hardcore punk band, and this is hardcore punk completely. These come out of Gilman Street scene, pictures like Billy Joe from Green Day wearing Neurosis shirts back in the day and all that. It is hardcore, but it does have like doomy, slower riffing bits, and it's quite influenced like that. I think they were influenced by Rudimentary P9, Anti-Sect, that kind of stuff, and a bit of Joy Division as well, a bit of like British post-punk they were quite into. So like I say, it gets doomy, gloomy at times, still got some of that metal, still experimenting, but it is pretty much straight up hardcore. But like I say, being more of a, okay, well there's a band that I know you like, maybe you haven't heard their first album from 1987, which is a hardcore album, and take them down that road that way. So that's my third pick.
Not really familiar, I've got to be honest.
It's good, man.
Yeah. This next CD, I said to him, he picked it up when I took it downstairs. He said, I've not heard this. He said, trust me, if there's one album in my list of records here that you would absolutely hate, it is this. And my next pick is a band I love, and again, I get shit for loving them. This album is called At War With The World, and it's by the band Fury of 5 from New Jersey. Love Fury of 5. Again, a bit of rapping in there. They kind of look like Korn, or they did back then with the little dreads, but this is tough as nails. But there is like a few samples that definitely... Right, you know what? This is like tough guy nu metal. That's probably what the best way to describe this. And there was a few bands that came out like this around that time. You had
definitely.
You had like these guys, and you had like Downset and all them, and they were kind of like... But I love them, and also similar to like, a lot of bands from like that time, it's like New Jersey, and that they've got a bit of a problematic history, which I like. A lot of trouble at a lot of their gigs back in the day. James is quite an interesting character, and these were like kind of like in with like the 25 to Life guys back then and all that, and yeah, this is... Listen to the song Do or Die on YouTube if you've not heard it. But yeah, these are one of them bands that everyone like, you like Fury of 5? What the... And all, mate, I love Fury of 5. Honestly, I love them. They know what they don't give a shit. They know they've got stupid bits in. Like, they've got bits where they'll go, hey! You know, like have singy bits like that. Mm-hmm. And then he'll have a rap. And then he'll go, hey! Like, and they'll have a bit and then it'll like go, like that, and he'll have like, you know, like a new metal kind of like stupid bit. Do not touch it. What are you going to do to it?
Nothing. I just wanted to have a look at the artwork, man. What do you think I was going to do?
I thought you were going to smash it up or something.
Oh yeah, that's.
I've got 2 of them anyway.
I can't do that to any.
Oh yeah, it's on Victory Records as well.
Checking out the artwork, because that's terrible artwork as well.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
I like the font.
It's very. I mean, not the font, but like the Public Enemy target and stuff.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, tough guy, new metal. That's what I'll call Fury of 5. Amazing. Well, good.
Okay. Yeah. So next pick for me, I've gone for the Plot Sickens by His Hero Is Gone, who are a Crust band who existed still pretty much just after this came out, I think, 98. I picked these. Those of you familiar with them probably know as well that a few of the members went on and formed Tragedy after this. I kind of prefer these personally, but you know, both are good bands, obviously. But I picked these, like, again, this is like a good mix of crust punk metal riffs. It's got some like sludgy, doomy riffs. The song Angry Gods, I think it is. I think it's the 3rd track. No, 5th track, 6th track, somewhere around there. That's got like a slow build up. And then there's the other one. Oh God, what was it called? Track 3. What Goes Up. I think it's called What Goes Up. That starts with like these big chordy things with the drums playing. Just reminds me of like an intro to a metal song, straight up. Then it goes fast as fuck into like the crusty stuff. But I think it's a good mix. Again, a lot of the guitars have like that metally lead sound to them. And yeah, I just think this would be a good way to show them, you know, again, crust punk is kind of a melding of those two, of punk and metal a bit anyway. So I think this would be a good way to lead them down that path. So yeah, that's my 4th pick.
As you might have seen, every single one of my choices has been a CD. That's not usually the case. I'll be honest, it is down to laziness and convenience. I've just literally grabbed the CD version. I do have a vinyl of most of these, not all, but so the last pick I've chosen is definitely not what I'd consider a great album at all.
I'm into this band, like.
But they were a big deal, I guess, for me back in the day. Now, if you're like me, if you were a metalhead who just happened to be teetotal, right, and obviously straight edge might appeal to you, this is probably the perfect album. Haymaker, Throwdown. Now, before this album, I believe it was the guitarist who sang for him before this album, before they got the new guy in on this album. Obviously, straight edge band, Throwdown. So, like I said, if you're a metalhead who just happens to be a little bit against the grain in that scene and is a teetotal, like I was when I was like 16, something like this will really, really appeal to you. Not just that, it sounds very, very, very Pantera-ish. We're talking very groove metal. The singer sounds very, very like Phil Anselmo.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reasons for a metalhead to like this album. A lot of reasons. Mosh parts, you know, lots of stuff like that. Again, camo shorts. You can wear your camo shorts. You can have your long hair. The thing about Throwdown, though, is, you know, when you think of a lot of them, like, very typical of the early 2000s, like Trustkill, very typical of that type of thing. When you think of a lot of them bands like Hatebreed, Terror, you know, even like Most Precious Blood, I feel like Throwdown have kind of like been forgotten a little bit. I feel like time has not been good to Throwdown. I feel, and you know, they weren't the worst. Yeah, like I say, their songs have got good bits in. Their songs have got bits in. I mean, look, the cheese on toast, you know, raise your fist in the hair, drug free and all that. It's cheese on toast, but they have got bits in their songs be like, ooh, that's, I'm going to smash my bedroom up, do you know what I mean? Like, it certainly has got, and this, certainly, you know, they certainly has got bits like that in this, but, you know, this, like I say, there's no reason this should not appeal to most metalheads, especially with like very Pantera-ish sound.
Cool.
So, yeah, have you got a pick?
I've got a pick.
Sorry, yeah.
Last pick for me. Gone for Live the Storm by Disfear.
You not picked that already?
Nope. You keep asking me these fucking questions, man. I have picked a Disfear album before, but not this one. I actually, again, because this is one I'm not a massive fan of, I prefer the first 3. This has got Thomas Lindberg on vocals, as did the one before it, who, if you know, bit of death metal, he's at the Gates. It's also got Ufi, oh god, Seedland, is it? He's guitarist in Entombed. joined for this album and the one prior to it as well. Kind of shifted their sound a bit, went a bit more, definitely more like that death and roll thing that Entombed were doing. Like, you know, that
Wolverine
kind of
Blues.
Yeah,
Amazing.
Like I think that's great as well.
Yeah.
With the DB drumming, but this has got metal licks all over it, guitar wise, straight from the off the song "Get It Off," I think it's called. Fucking amazing. Like, again, a bit quite Iron Maiden-y, I guess. But really like crystal clear in the production. It's produced by Kurt Ballou from Converge. He's no fucking slouch behind the desk, obviously. And it sounds massive. It's great. Again, if you're into metal, it's definitely got like a Motorhead feel to it as well. But the guitars on it for me, again, like I say, is what kind of made me think, it's got some metal chops all over it, and obviously a couple of the dudes are like metal royalty in Sweden. But yeah, definitely, again, that would be probably, if I was going to say, going to lead them down the D-beat path into that sort of world in Swedish hardcore, I'd probably start here and work my way back, because I'd say for me, these actually get better, but this might be more palatable for a metalhead than the first, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, there we go.
So that's all our picks done, but before we go, it's time for this. Conned are they? So welcome to a new segment of the show that we're going to start doing. Now, anyone out there who collects records or collects any kind of physical media will know that what you buy online is not always as it seems when it comes through the door. And it happens to me and Geoff quite a lot. We always know when something's arrived, either in faulty condition, because we get a message off one or the other just saying conned, and the other one says, why, what's happened? And usually it results in a laugh from the other person who goes, in your face. So
more you than me. I've definitely got more sympathy in my heart than this guy.
Yeah, but I'll tell you why. Because I get conned all the time, and it makes me feel good when someone else gets conned. Right? So the reason we're starting this week, we're going to make this a permanent part of the show, hopefully. But we've both been conned this week, and that's why we're going to. It doesn't have to just be record. Could be clothing. Could be anything. But we've both had a con this week. So Geoff, what's your con?
Well, so if any of you know, the album Extinction by Nausea. It's one I've been after for a long time. Crust classic. Pre-ordered that about 3 months ago because I heard it was getting repressed and fucking I'll have that. Pre-ordered it, paid for it. It's never turned up, has it? Loads of people have been getting copies of it. You sent me a picture, you had a copy of it. I'm like, what the fuck?
Oh yeah, I got one.
Fucking record, like.
Yeah.
So sent an email, nothing. Sent another email. Still had nothing. So, you know, I'm sitting here now like, where's my Nausea album? So I've actually had to go and buy a second copy. So I paid for it twice, but I've only got one. Because I don't want to like miss out, you know what I mean, if it sells out this pressing and stuff. So I've bought it, and I hope the other one, if it turns up, I'll have to have 2 copies, won't I? But that was my bit of a con this week.
Yeah, I mean that's not that is a regular type of con. That's a specific. That's a breed of con that you often get when you collect records.
Definitely.
I think it's happened to me loads of
Yeah,
times.
same. It's not the first time it's happened to me.
So my con is I'm a big collector of B movies, specifically martial art B movies from back in the 80s and 90s. I ordered on Blu-ray this week Martial Law, starring Chad McQueen, Cynthia Rothrock, and David Carradine. One I've had on VHS before, recently been released on Blu-ray on a foreign label. It turns up, guess what happens? There's no disc in it. There's my con.
It's
a bad con, that, innit?
Bad con.
So that's conned, and that is the new feature of this. Send in your cons though. If you get onto us on Instagram, tell us your con and tell us your name and where you're from, and we will read it out for you.
Yeah,
we will read it out next week. So next week it'll be conned, and we will read it out for you.
Unless a massive one's happened to one of us as well in that time. Then
we'll do our own con. Happens most weeks.
Yeah.
And we'll read out your cons.
Yeah.
Go over to Instagram, Tied Down TV. Tell us your con. Tell us your name. Tell us where you're from. We'll read it out.
There you go. So that's the video. Tell us all your picks for metalheads in the comments. Like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. Jump on the Instagram, give us some follows, likes, messages, all that. Facebook as well. And we'll see you next week.